18th. Mr. Steinecker, how are you, sir? Happy Monday.
Boy, it was a storm that came through this morning, Joe. I don't know if it caught you guys, but man, I thought it was a tornado that was heading straight for us. The sky just had a tidal wave in front of it.
Yeah, I've got the warnings, got a call and a text from the county talking about take shelter. So must have been pretty bad.
Yeah, it was one of those that reminds us how where we are. We are in a tropical paradise, and these last 8 weeks, it's been a nice thing to know that we've had the good weather behind us. But I think Mother Nature just reminded us we just are about to get into a hurricane season, believe it or not. So we're going to have to start talking about other things going forward as well. But I hope you had a good weekend. Joe, I know you had back surgery on Friday, and for a guy who's just had back surgery to be back up and helping me get the word out, I appreciate it. But you look good.
Thank you. I feel good. I was a success. Had my lucky shirt on, and not allowed to change it for a couple of days, so it may disintegrate off of me. Maybe the last time you ever see it, but it did the trick. So thanks for that.
Well, if you're watching this and you love Joe as much as I do, we just send him a get well card or a email or a text or something. This man does so much for our community, and he's doing it again. And he's injured today, but he's playing injured. And man, I like guys like that. So appreciate you being here. And hey, your work is not for naught. You know, we start each one of these by showing the numbers. Do you mind if I show where we're at today and how our community is behaving with reopening and with the issues? So let me just share my screen real quick.
And while you're pulling that up, I am going to send a thank you out. I did get a lot of well wishes and a lot of love, and it was greatly appreciated, and it matters. So thank you to everybody who sent words.
Again, the numbers we're looking at is the percent of weekly positive cases. This is still decreasing. We're going to get the new numbers today for the last week. I anticipate this going up a little bit, only because we're seeing this number creep up. Joe, the last couple of days, you and I have been watching this number. This is the daily average new cases. It started to creep up. I try to show it, different ways. Here is just the numbers to show that. So you can see back in the April timeframe around my birthday, we were up at that high point around 25. We began to coast back down. And now these last few days, we missed data on 13th. But as the data starts to pack back up, we start to seeing our average caseload to go up. This is still not, this is a concern. So this is a bellwether. We're like, okay, we're going to watch this. When it gets up to these numbers is when we start to worry about our hospitals having the capacity. And so we're going to continue to watch these. What the good news from all that is, Joe, I really do think it's a lot about a lot more testing. So one final slide for everybody is this overall percent positive, this big chart, this one right here, the speedometer. We were told by the mayor when we opened up a couple weeks ago now that this number had to be under 6%. Since we started, when I was watching, it was a little over 5, went to 4.8. It was at 4.2. Now the total percentage, so the number of total people tested, no more positive tests, we're at 4%. It is way within the striking range. You can see our weekly range that you're supposed to be under 10. We're down at 1.86. And look at all the number of negative cases being shown our way. So we are testing a lot of people. People are still getting sick. Unfortunately, people are still dying. They tend to be, especially in Pinellas County, over 65 and in a limited assisted living facility. But it's certainly nothing to mess with right now. We're very concerned about it. But right now, the numbers appear that we're in good shape. So yeah, so far, so good. This was the day we said, holy cow, if the numbers shot up above our ranges, we would have to slow ourselves down. They aren't. We have reopened. Today is a Monday where our restaurants and other folks can go up to 50%, our retailers. So businesses are trying to figure it out. And you know what? They're trying to figure out what the new normal is. So let's talk about that a little bit, about what is going to be happening and what's developing. I want to bring in Jay Miller, who's a developer who's got a pretty high-profile development, and let's talk a little bit about that. Morning, Jay. How are you, buddy?
Hey, Jay.
I'm good. How are you guys?
Fantastic. It's good to see you. We just reviewed the numbers, and we are an open economy right now. We just opened a lot more today with some of our folks going live in 50% capacity and some great opportunities. And luckily for us, our hospitals have the ability to take care of those who are sick, and our numbers of percent positive are maintained to keep going down. So right now we're in good shape. But you have one of those opportunities to talk about what the future is, and before we do that, let me just, make sure you introduce yourself to our listeners. So tell a little bit about who you are.
I am Jay Miller. I'm president of J Square Developers based here in downtown St. Petersburg. Our company develops both commercial and multifamily residential projects here in the Bay Area, mostly on infill sites or redevelopment sites. And the most exciting thing we have going on is a project in St. Pete's Edge District to redevelop the old police station.
Great.
We'll, I'm sure, talk a lot about that today.
Yeah, and I'm excited. It's good to see you. It looks like you weathered the storm of both today's storm and the last 8 weeks pretty well, but family back in town. Maybe you'd tell us how the hunkering down for the last 8 weeks has been for you personally.
We've been hunkered down. Both of my adult daughters are home with us. One is in college, and she is finishing up her spring quarter online, very busy studying. And our older daughter is working in Washington, D.C., and of course they're on work at home. And so she opted to come down and live with us here in St. Pete and to work from here. And so she works out of her bedroom when there's work to do. And that's been the silver lining for us in this shutdown period.
Well, I tell you what, I think we're hearing that theme over and over, Joe, these last 8 weeks, where at first it was a shock to the system for everybody, but now actually people really enjoy being with their families and realize that they learned a pretty neat lesson out of this as well. I bet you guys did as well.
Well, as I say to my friends and family, one thing I've learned is that living this way is very stress-free in a certain sense, because there's no decisions to make about where to go or what to do. We know we'll be at home, and we're all very relaxed. A little excited to get back to some normal life, but relaxed and enjoying the time together.
Yep, I think we all are. And now, unfortunately, though, there's going to be this next round of where we're going to be start walking around and getting back out again. So you have a big project. You mentioned it. We are taking the old police station that we had seen for years, and it's in a major part of our downtown, and you all were lucky enough to get the chance to redevelop it. So help us understand, how that goes about. What are you guys doing right now? I know that you aren't doing anything right now, but thinking about it. But help us understand, when you take down a project, you say you do redevelopment, you have a plan for it, and now COVID happens. How do you guys retool, or what do you start thinking about?
Well, we've taken a pause because our world has changed so much. And we need to see where we are when we reemerge and how quickly we're going to reemerge, whether this is a V-shaped recovery or a U-shaped recovery. So in real estate, we talk a lot about location, and we're very confident we have a great location in the middle of the Edge District to develop an exciting mixed-use project. But the other factor that we've learned going through crises and downturns in the past is timing. So it's location and timing. And right now the timing is uncertain. I mean, basically in the real estate development business, what we're doing is selling space for people to use, businesses and individuals. So the residences are obviously is space for people to live in, and office space and retail space is space for people to do business in. Right now, COVID has changed the way we use space because we're required to keep our distance from each other.
Right.
So we need to digest what the long-term implications are going to be and whether or not this is going to have a long-term impact on the way businesses use office space and businesses use retail space.
I agree. So to break it down for us, so for those of you who haven't been tracking, the police station is going to be redeveloped. What were your original plans when you guys won the RFP for this, what was it supposed to be?
Okay. So there were 4 or 5 different components. Most important from the city's point of view is a new public parking garage with a total of 600 spaces, 400 for the public. There's 2 residential components, 30 workforce rental apartments, and about 56 condominiums in 2 separate buildings. And there were 2 important commercial components, 100,000 square feet of new office space, and about 22,000 square feet of ground floor retail surrounding a public civic space or a public plaza for people to interact in and enjoy, which was really the public feature of the project.
Wow. So yeah. So talk about. I mean, you have literally all different features of any one of those would be a major project, from a parking garage to just one kind of residential, but you're putting two different kind of residentials, then office, then retail. I mean, it's a complete mix, and each one of them is a complete different set of factors you guys have to think about now for your supply and demand. I mean, they are completely different. I would imagine the harder one to make sure you got to get done is parking, right? That was one of the requirements that the city put in there. So I would imagine that's going to stick. Would you guys think there's going to be travel pattern changes and use of, or does a parking garage get reevaluated during this as well?
Well, so the only challenge, or the primary challenge for the parking garages, is it's important that there's demand from the office building to use the parking spaces during weekdays. So that's going to help help support the financial viability of the garage, is monthly parkers from the office building. So to the extent that we, for example, had to delay construction of the office building, or if the office component changed, that would have an impact on the public parking garage and the usage of the public parking garage.
Gotcha. So when and how do you take each component? Like, what kind of data are you looking at? Because it seems to me like it's going to take a while for us to really understand what those new demands are going to be. You know, we've talked about our 4 R's. Reopen was relief was the first part. Reopen is where we're at now. Recovery was where we start talking about, can we get back up to the demands we used to have? And then reimagine was that 4th step where we're like, okay, everything we used to know is different now. So you guys are really in that reimagine part of life right now, where you guys are trying to figure out, do you have enough data to even start thinking that way? Are you there yet? Do you have enough?
No, I don't think we know enough yet. I've started to have very preliminary conversations with a couple of prospects, and I've heard, all sorts of different reactions on the part of businesses to how they're thinking about their future office space. But it's so early. I mean, ranging from a lot of our employees find that they're just as productive working at home as they were in the office, and really have expressed an interest in continuing to work out of home offices. So we're probably not going to need as much space. On the flip side, if this lasts for an extended period of time, we're going to need to bring our employees back in stages in order to reduce the overall density in the office so that people can stay 6 feet apart. And as a result, we're going to need to use more space per employee than we did 6 months ago.
Wow.
So we don't know yet which way it's going to go. And really, it may depend on how quickly there's a treatment and how quickly people feel comfortable that they, don't need to stay 6 feet apart from each other.
Right. So this safety concern of everybody. So getting the consumer back is important to you too. So what our locals are doing right now to make sure people feel safe helps you along the way too, because that starts to create the normalcy. But also maybe what your daughter did may help you. Would you guys be as concerned about this project if you were in a major metro area like New York or DC right now? Do you think they're going to have a different kind of development concern than you all are? Another factor just based on how hard those folks got hit with this kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think it's going to take longer there. I know my daughter's employer and some of her friends' employers that are in New York and Washington and Chicago have already told their employees that don't count on coming back before January of 2021. And I've even heard in certain instances where employers have said, you're free to work from home until summer of 2021.
Wow.
So, this is what's going on in some of the larger cities where, people depend on public transportation to get to work, and it's harder to keep your distance from others. That could result in that could be positive for us here, where the way we live is a little bit less dependent. We're not as close to each other. We're not as dense. In the long term, it could have a positive impact for us. But again, I think it's too early to know.
Gotcha. Yeah, I understand that, but it is interesting how we can all assume that it's going to be, it's not a positive thing, but you just showed us some examples where people may need space, people might be coming here, they might, so that we don't know yet. So it's too early to start saying it's all rain and gray. You guys just have to kind of deal with it. So can you keep moving though? I mean, or does this project just get delayed? Or, can you guys keep still doing some of the work to get us going?
Well, we may have to start taking a look at the feasibility of phasing it. There's certain aspects of the project that we could go forward with, much quicker. Obviously, I'm not worried at all about the demand for workforce housing here in downtown St. Petersburg. I think we could fill it up today if we had the units done today. The city is anxious, and the businesses in the Edge District are anxious to see the public parking garage built. So, it's possible that we could move forward quicker on certain aspects of the project, and while we're studying and digesting the long-term trends that will affect the other aspects of the project. But that's going to depend on a dialogue with the city, who is our partner. This is a public-private venture. Originally, I know the administration was really anxious for us to build it all at one time. And we're going to have a discussion about whether they'd like to see us build certain components in order to have some activity, in the short term, or whether they really want to wait and have us build it all at the same time.
Did you guys ever estimate how many jobs you'd create for just construction jobs throughout that project? Did you guys ever think through that?
We did when we responded to the RFP, and I don't remember the answer off the top of my head, but I think it was over 500.
Yeah, I think so too. I remember it being that kind of large number. And so that's why it's interesting and important to see if we can keep phasing things like this, not to rush and not to do it wrong, but there are people that we can get back to work if we go confidently with phasing our construction and development of our community. And we appreciate you thinking through that as well, because we want to get more people back to work as well.
I'm eager to have your ideas as well as you think through this. So please feel free to share.
And we report a lot on affordable housing, workforce housing. Can you just, COVID aside, sort of lay out the differences as you envision that kind of housing versus the other condos that would be in the space?
Well, the primary difference is the workforce housing is rental housing. The condominiums obviously are ownership. Mm-hmm. So the workforce housing is going to be set aside for households that earn between 80% and 120% of median income here in our region. So our median income is around $60,000. So we're talking about folks that are earning in the high 40s to up to $75,000, $80,000. Also depends on family size. The larger the family, the income might be a little higher. So these are middle income workers that some of our first responders, policemen, firemen, our teachers, and certainly our restaurant workers and our healthcare workers that work downtown but are currently probably priced out of the market. They'll be brand new units. They won't be that different in quality. Maybe slightly smaller than the condominiums will be. And they'll be available at rents that are probably 20 to 30% lower than market rents for similar apartments downtown.
But do you start thinking about redesigning how people are living too now? Do you guys start really thinking, hey, I got, people are going to use home offices more? Do you guys really start redesigning the residential units now too a little bit? Or?
I think there's been a trend towards home offices, particularly amongst, households that don't have kids at home so much. So that might be a change. It's certainly empty nesters and folks that don't have children at home already have a preference for having a room in their home that can be used as an office. It's been less of a case for families with children who need the bedrooms for their children. We haven't gone there yet. Haven't thought through that as much. But it's an interesting trend to think about.
Well, I can tell Joe's wanting that trend. I can hear his kids in the background. So I think he's trying to figure out how to do that as well. So
yeah. Something with some bars on the windows and one of those tubes with the little wall that they can just get a drink from.
Yeah, it looks to me like Joe's working in the Caribbean right now.
Yeah. He wishes. I know that's a fact.
I'm happy right here in St. Pete.
Yeah. Well, Jay, I appreciate you jumping on, because I really do think it's important that we start reimagining what our community is as we're reopening it as well. And you certainly are going to be one of those that are going to be tasked with trying to figure out new consumer behaviors from a retail perspective, from how we're going to live, work, eat, and play, where we go to work. You guys are going to have a lot of fun these next few weeks and months. I mean that because you're really going to have to take a look at what has just gone on and project what's going to do with it. And you started this meeting by saying it hasn't been all bad for you. You don't mind being there. So what you're developing might change a little bit too based on some of that.
Well, I'm very eager to have your collective wisdom since you're out talking to lots of people, lots of different businesses in the community. So call me anytime.
We look forward to it, Jay. I appreciate it. Yeah, let's get to work, though. I can't wait to hear how it goes. And thanks for joining us. And Joe, man, I'm so glad you're doing well after your surgery. Thanks for coming back, and thanks for covering what St. Pete's up to.